The FNRad Snowboard podcast is sponsored by Wired Snowboards from Vancouver, BC. Pepe hooked me up with a 159 directive that has a custom Denmark graphic, which is in honor of my Danish grandparents. Thanks a lot, Pepe. You can get a custom graphic on any shape Wired offers, and it doesn't cost any more than a comparable board with a stock graphic from most other snowboard companies. Go to wiredsnowboards.com and order a board today. Support also comes from the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Boardroom's been in the business for nearly 30 years because they sell the best stuff and they offer the best customer service. Go to boardroomshop.com for all your snowboarding needs. Dakine Outerwear kidded me up this year, and I'm actually sad to say that I lost my Gore-Tex mitts at the Baker Bank Slalom last week. I love those mitts, and I'm sure their new owner will love them too. Dakine got into snowboarding right at the beginning, making leashes and accessories, then backpacks, then gloves, and most recently outerwear, which they've been doing for quite a few years now. They're amazing at everything they make. Grouse Mountain gave me a pass this season, and I haven't been up there as much as I'd like to, but hey, I've been heliboarding in the Monashee, so I'm not complaining. Grouse is celebrating 25 years of snowboard park building. I know it's now a park for snowboarders and skiers, but back in the day when Jay Ballmer put it in, the first park was on side cut, and it was snowboarding only, if you can believe that. Thanks again to Grouse. Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC is owned by True Snowboard Royalty. Make sure you drop by if you find yourself in Nelson, BC. And I'm cooking up a deal with Crow's Nest Barbershop. More about that in other episodes.
It was a totally fun time, didn't get too gnarly.
I kind of look at the Mystery Air as an improved evolution of the Switchblade.
Snowboarding is ours.
You know, obviously I like working with Burton.
As an old school snowboarder, you get so used to being treated as a second-class citizen.
And I was like, how do you spell your last name? He said, Kelley. And I was like, oh, we should get married. And he's like, no, too symmetrical.
Most of our listeners will already know who Chris Dufficy is. He was in the Forum 8. He was a child prodigy of Canadian legend Shawn Johnson, and he always had a huge smile on his face, and he still does. His style and attitude drew him a lot of attention as a pro rider, and now, living back in his hometown of Kamloops BC, Chris is a father of 2, a loving husband, a volunteer firefighter, and the day we talked, he had just finished the online testing to become a home inspector, so that all that's left to do is his field experience. This was a fun one. Enjoy.
You know, here it's just like country, relaxed, you know, not so many vibes.
Yeah,
you know,
it's always summer for me if I go up there. I haven't done much I went to Sun Peaks one time. Actually, here's a funny story about Sun Peaks. That's where Jess is from, right? Jess Camara?
Yeah.
So she was up there just as a kid, and you showed up. And she's like, oh my God, it's Chris Dufficy. I got to get his autograph. So she goes up to you, and you were so nice. You're like, yeah, for sure. Do you have a marker? She's like, oh no, I don't have one. And you're like, oh, I think I got one in my backpack. So you unzip the top pouch of your backpack and pull out your wallet. And you're not thinking about it. You're like digging around in there, and she looks at your wallet, and there's like $100 bills in it.
Oh
and
my
she's
gosh.
like, oh my God. You must make so much money as a pro snowboarder. It's so amazing. So like just that little interaction probably pushed her a little in that direction.
She's awesome, man. I don't know what to say about her, man. She has a heart of gold and determination of, I don't know, that's next level.
She's a true snowboarder.
Yeah.
Like she's got a snowboarder's heart.
Yeah,
she's,
exactly.
You couldn't take her away from it. Like when she would get injured, the first thing that she'd ask the doctor is like, when can I go back?
Yeah. Never say die attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. An impressive person, just like outside of snowboarding, but also in snowboarding. Like there's so few people like that are that like, what do you say? Like determined.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you're in good health and everything's going well and you have a great attitude. What happens to your attitude, you know, once you're hurt? You know, are you going to keep that attitude where it's at? Is it going to go downhill? You know, so it's a huge mental game, You know, I've played that game with myself many a time.
What was the first major injury that you had? Were most of your injuries like concussion related, or did you break a leg or something before? Or?
It would be broke my wrists a lot.
Wow.
You know,
that's no fun.
Broke my wrists a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's nasty.
Wrists, sprained ankles.
Yeah.
I'd sprain ankles all the time. You know, I never rode I rode in Sorels.
Yeah.
You know, with no ankle supports, anything like that. And then further down the road, obviously concussions.
Yeah, that's nasty.
You know, and luckily no major broken bones, but beside that, you know, I've done pretty much everything else since I've been a professional snowboarder. You know, come from knee injuries, broken elbow, broken ribs, punctured lung. I don't know. It just, it's, you want to play, you got to pay to play.
Yeah. So are you, like, as soon as you figured out what the damage is, damage control, you're working your way back to getting back on the snow kind of thing? Is that the kind of attitude you would have?
It's more of a mental aspect to see where I am mentally after it. You know, how much it affected my brain. You know, I don't look to see like, oh, how fast can I get back on the hill? Yeah. Like how's my attitude after I get hurt? Because obviously everyone gets down. Everyone gets, you know, depressed. But luckily enough, I had such a good support team around me, giving me the advice and the confidence and the things I needed to hear at that certain time.
At least 4 people that I've talked to talked about when you got the doctor's letter saying that you're good to go. That you know, people were just like so fucking happy because it was touch and go there for a bit. It was like really fucking scary. I told you that upstairs. I was like, I remember it hitting North Van and the snowboard community in North Van. Like it was all of a sudden just everybody was very somber and scared for you. And I don't remember how long of a recovery it was between when you hit the tree and when you were back on your board, but it was probably a season, right?
It was. Well, it was kind of funny because like I hit the tree and I was in the hospital, and basically that fall I moved up to Whistler of all places to move to, you know. I just needed to get out of Kamloops to clear my head. Lucky enough, Mark Morissette, you know, provided me with a job, provided me with something to look forward to, something to concentrate on other than snowboarding, but still involved me enough within the industry. I think he took a risk, you know, asking me to come up and or basically giving me an opportunity to work for 4-star. And at the same time, it's one of those things, you know, he was one of my idols growing up. You know, you think of the 1080 jump, that's Maury's jump. You know, that's Maury's jump. I was there. Him riding a Type A board and him chucking 1080s, and we were all in awe. Like, we were just like, this is next level. Like, no one saw that before ever. And you talk about style. Like, you see him do a straight air, the best thing ever. You know, times that by, you know, 1080, and it's just like, it blows your mind.
That's
you know,
rad.
I'm 15 at the time, riding with those guys, not knowing how to snowmobile, and watching him destroy things, you know, but not having an attitude about it. He was just, I don't know, he was just like, he was so suave about it, you know, he was just so smooth, you know, like it seemed like nothing affected him. And even moving up to Whistler, I moved in with Maury for the first 2 weeks.
Rad.
I was there.
That's rad. How old were you at that point?
19.
Yeah. So you're still just a kid.
Yeah, just a teenager, still a teenager.
And you worked with some pretty cool guys in that warehouse.
I worked with amazing people. Chris Nichols, Craig Ingman.
Yeah.
You know, just awesome people, you know, like Craig Roswell, Ty Shelley. It's just
Strats.
Yeah, Mike Strato. There's just, I don't know. It's just somehow good people find good people.
It's true.
You know, positive things happen because you're positive. You know, it's not like, oh, this happens for a reason, or this is that. Like, I hate that. Like, oh, this happened for a reason. Like, no, it didn't happen for a reason. You know, you could say it does, but, you know, there's so many different ways to explain, you know, why things go one way or the other. But basically, it's there to challenge you, you know, to see how far you can push yourself, to see how strong you are, to see, you know, how far your limits actually are.
Yeah. Your focus determines your reality, right? Like, so you can take your lumps and then be like, oh, well, that's it. Or you can be like, all right, this is just another challenge to get over.
Yeah.
And you see different people, you know, pushing through life with like bad attitudes and being grumpy and whatever. And every time you see them, they seem to have some other grievance about some other terrible thing that happened to them. And then you see people like yourself, you always got a smile on your face. And, you know, you're never talking about the bad things that happen because you're always happy. And, I mean, from my perspective, you know, enjoying your life. You had a lot of success in snowboarding, but because you were really fucking good. You still are. If your Insta feed's not, if those filters aren't.
Yeah, those are from like 98, actually.
The ones that you put the filters on? Those are 98? No, they aren't. Jesus. Yeah, that's this year at Sun Peaks, right?
Yeah, that was last weekend.
It's insane.
It's just one of those things, like you have a love for something. Like, I'm not going to stop doing something because I'm older or not sponsored or you know, like I'm doing something because I enjoy the feeling of it. I enjoy the feeling of being strapped in and being able to go as fast as I want. You know, I love the feeling of being in the air, being weightlessness, you know, and being comfortable with it. I love trying tricks that I haven't tried in over a decade and my body's still remembering what to do.
That's rad.
You know, so it's simple things like that. But at the same time, the recovery, you know, is a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, it might hurt a little bit more. But for me to make those memories again and again, it's worth it.
Yeah, rad. So were you working at 4-Star before the whole Forum thing happens? 4-Star was distributing like Special Blend, Foursquare, and then Forum. But like, when does the Forum 8 thing happen? That would have been just like the absolute best phone call. Or how did they offer you to be on the team?
It wasn't like I was writing for Forum before.
Yeah,
and nothing really, you know, the Forum 8 wasn't established yet.
Right.
You know, it was just a new company coming out because it was Peter Lime, Bjorn Linus, and myself were the first people on Forum.
Rad.
And it was just a company that was starting. It was like the decks that had, what do they have? Jamie Lynn, Engelmar. What was the other? Yeah.
The photo series?
Yeah, the photo series.
With the little photos.
And Terrier. It was Terrier.
Yeah,
those are the 3 photos on Pete's boards.
Yeah,
you know? And then later it was kind of like, I don't really recall who kind of got on next, you know, if it was like JP or Devin or Jeremy or how that escalated.
They were talking about putting Salaz on. That would have been a completely different team with Noah Selaznick there.
I think it would have been a different vibe. I never had the chance to get to know him, but you know what? You never know what could have happened.
Yeah.
You know, in that situation, you know. He's one of the greatest snowboarders of all time. What he did for the sport of snowboarding, for style alone, you know, I can't thank him enough.
Did you get to ride with him when you were down in Tahoe?
No, I never did. That's one things, you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, I look back at some of the people that I would have loved to ride with, you know, still to this day, I would love to, you know,
Yeah.
but it just, you know, it didn't happen. You know, it doesn't make me mad, but I still remember meeting the people that I idolized for the first time. I remember the first time meeting Jamie Lynn.
Rad.
You know, like at this contest, you know.
Did you fan out or?
We were riding a contest and I was riding for Vans boots, you know.
Yeah.
And I forget who was all there, but I'm waiting to drop in next. And this guy's like, hey. And I look around, I'm like, shit, that's Jamie Lynn. And he's like, are you Chris Dufficy? I'm just like, yeah. And he's like, cool, man. So you're on Vans? I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah. And he's like, all right, man. Sounds good. So then, like, they call my name, and I'm dropping in for this jump, and I'm just like, shit, Jamie Lynn's watching me. Jamie Lynn's watching me. Jamie Lynn's watching me. Jamie Lynn's watching me. You know, it's like, I remember that to this day.
That's amazing.
You know, and then at the end of the day, I got second. I got beat by Jim Rippey.
Sick. That's incredible. Where was that contest?
It was probably in Tahoe somewhere.
That's insane.
You know, Vans contest back in the day.
Oh, yeah, the Vans Triple Crown stuff.
All I wanted from the team manager, I'm like, all I want is a pair of all white half cabs.
Right.
That's all I wanted. You know, I got second in the contest, and I was like, cool. Here's some money. But then my team manager comes up and he hands me this box. I'm just like, what is this? He's like, open it. I open it up, and it's a pair of all white half cabs, and I just seriously had the biggest smile on my face. Like, I didn't care about anything else. I'm like, this is the best.
That's incredible, dude.
You know, like simple memories like that. And like, I remember Kevin Jones was there too, and he was hyping me out. Like, it was just cool. Like, the whole industry from day one, it's all about supporting each other.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone that I've met along the way has always been so cool to me. So it's almost, you know, to pay respect to snowboarding in itself, you know, you got to do the same thing to the people that are coming up.
Yeah, of course. So when the Forum 8 thing happens, so I always, just in my mind, because I don't know what the hell was going on behind the scenes, I felt like Peter was putting together the Forum 8 in his head. But that was that would have been a marketing department thing where they're like, okay, let's do this Forum 8 deal. Who do we have? Because would they have like 20 guys on the team? And then there was you 8, and then there was only a couple other people on
There's
the team.
There's some other people that were riding that were amazing people that I'm not too sure what happened. You know,
right.
They kind of went down their own paths, whether it be snowboarding, whether it be something else, you know, some other opportunity that arose outside of snowboarding.
Yeah.
But I'm not too sure, because it was like I was working at the warehouse, and I remember riding like that winter right after my accident. And it's like, yeah, I was just trying to take it easy, you know, riding with like all my warehouse dudes, you know. Like, I remember like the first time, like it was me and Craig, and we're Roswell, and we're riding, and there's like this little kind of quarter pipe hit in the backcountry, like in the trees, and I'm like, I'm just gonna try like this little wildcat to fakie, you know. Right. And it's the first time I actually tried anything, and I'm just like, I did it. And I'm like, dude, you can't tell nobody that I went upside down. He's like, yeah, okay. And then we go down to the park, you know, and then I start riding the pipe, and I'm just like, this feels awesome, you know. And I had like my helmet, I had like my face covered, and I remember blasting a couple pretty big frontside airs, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, no one knows, no one can see me. Next day at work, I come in, first thing I hear from Nix is like, what the fuck are you doing in the pipe? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, people saw you blasting out of the pipe. And I'm just like, no. And I remember to this day, like, he definitely confronted me about it.
Yeah.
You know, it was at I don't know, I guess my best interest.
Love, man.
You
Yeah,
know,
people were scared.
That, you know, what could happen, what, you know, could have happened, what, you know, I guess I could have played it a lot safer, a lot smarter, but being such a young individual, you know, it's like you can't really control your inhibitions to want to do something.
So you had, at that point, you had like a dedicated neurosurgeon or neurologist.
Yeah, I had a neurologist, you know, that I talked to, and
they usually are pretty conservative with their estimates, right? They're like, yeah, you know what, maybe not this year, Chris. We got to be extra careful. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, you know, and you know, I was one of the luckiest people to go through what I went through, you know, with head injury, to come out in the state that I did. There's a lot of people I know that have had, you know, less severe head traumas, and they're not doing that well. You know, your brain is a very delicate part of your body, you know, and somebody was looking out for me. You know, I'm not religious, but I'm just saying somebody was looking out for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I just got dealt the right cards at the right time. Mm-hmm. You know, and I took advantage of it, and I never looked back.
That's rad. So you get your neurologist gives you the okay eventually. Is that the next? Is it the next year, or is it the end of that season? Didn't you fax the letter to somebody?
I remember getting it, and I was up in Whistler, and I remember getting it from I think it was probably the summertime. Yeah. Or even close to the winter time, you know, the fall.
Yeah.
And I have a letter, and I go and I see Dano. I'm like, Dano. I'm like, come here. I'm like, Dano, come here. Like Dano Pendergrass. And he's just like, what? I'm like, dude. And I just kind of like, you know, like you slide someone across the table, you know, like an envelope, like,
yeah,
check this out, you know, or like, this is a check. And I'm like, check this out, you know, and he opens it, and he kind of looks at it. Kind of looks up at me, kind of looks down at the letter, and he kind of looks back at me. And I'm just like, obviously, like ear to ear grinning, you know, and I don't know. I think it was just one of those things where probably even had a cry, you know?
Yeah, game on.
It was one of those things where it was green light, all systems go. And it was, you know, it was one of the best people that I could have shared it with.
Yeah.
You know, because we had such a strong relationship before, after, during, you know, like the type of person Dano is, like once you meet him, he brings you in like he's like your family. You know, he's very genuine. He's very concerning. He doesn't push you when you're out there. He respects, you know, your limitations when you say something you don't want to do. And then when I got to share something so personal with him, you know, it was, I don't even know how to explain. You know, right. It's one of those things, there's no words that can explain it at that time, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't even know. Like, it's like being allowed to breathe again. You know, it's something's holding you back. You can't breathe. You know, and then all of a sudden you're just like, deep breath. You can breathe. You can see clearly. You know, you have a direction. It's almost that I felt I had a purpose. You right. know, it wasn't. I don't know. It was like losing a part of me. You know, when I couldn't snowboard, it was like losing a part of me, and that part of me was part of the way I expressed myself. You know, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, well you seem happy and you smile a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I do smile a lot because I get to do things I want to do." You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's not that like I'm always happy.
Right.
You know, there's multiple sides to myself, to my personality, to what's going on, but what the public sees are small glimpses, and those small glimpses are smiles. So if I could share anything, obviously it would be my, you know, my smile, my energy, my enthusiasm towards, you know, something I love to do. And I believe I've shown that and given back to the snowboard industry, like, to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You know, it's not always thinking about yourself. You know, it's one of those things like I've coached a long time ago up at Camp of Champions for over 10 years. Right. You know, dealing with campers is one of the funnest things that I've ever done. You know, teaching them new ways to think about themselves, not like, let alone snowboarding, but how they live their lives. You know, snowboarding is a teaching tool. It's educational. You know, sometimes it works better than actual book work, you know, school work. You know, it's a communication, you know, with younger people. It's a similarity. You know, you have something in common. You can talk to them. You know, it allows younger people to open up a lot easier than, you know, having to deal with homework.
Totally.
So even, you know, this year I've been able to go up and coach some kids, you know, just kind of, not really coach, but just ride with kids, you know, a lot of 15-year-old kids. And it's good to see that where their minds are at, you know, like, I respect every coach, every snowboard coach up there, but don't just stick to one coach. Everyone has their own way of coaching, has their own way to visualize something, to help you. So the more people you see, the more it's going to open up your mind, your brain, and it's going to be easier for you to learn stuff. That's the way I see it, you know?
Yeah, that's super rad. When does the forum thing happen? At when you're 20, or it hadn't already happened at that point?
No.
It happens just right after that. Like,
it was basically like, when we were filming that winter.
Yeah.
I was basically on a trial basis with Forum, because they didn't, I don't know if they wanted to invest 100%.
Right.
Coming from where I came from, knowing what I went through.
Which is okay, let's examine that for a second. This is your employer, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, that's against the law here, right? Like, if you're working inspecting homes and you fall down, you break your leg, well, they got to take you back when your leg's fixed. You know what I mean? It's crazy that you guys gave so much to, and I'm not just talking about you, I'm talking about pro riders in the 90s, knowing full well that if you got hurt, sometimes you would see your friends get hurt and they'd just be off the team. That's insane. Like, I can't believe that was the way the industry worked at that time. You don't see that in any other sport, I don't think. Maybe I don't watch a lot of other sports, but, like, aren't there a lot of big name guys on sports teams? They get hurt, they might be out for a couple seasons, they're still getting paid.
Yeah, but at that time, and how young I was, per se, you know, I kind of was blinded by being able to ride again.
Hell yeah.
You know, yeah. I'm not looking like, oh, what's my future going to look like?
Right.
What am I going to do in, like, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, you know? I'm just like, I can snowboard, I can film, I can ride with my homies again, some of my best friends. You know, I'm not looking back.
Right.
You know, I'm not looking ahead. I'm living day by day.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes that blinds people.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a lot of things blind people. You know, sometimes money blinds people. Sometimes, you know, you never know. You know, sometimes popularity blinds people. Yeah. You know, so you just got to realize at the end of the day, you're just a normal person like anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, is the easiest way to say it. But at the same time, like, if I were to get hurt again, how would it look upon them? How would it look upon my employer again if I got hurt again?
Right.
So I had to prove or show them that I was 100% healed. You know, not saying that I am, because I definitely am kind of fucked up, but that's for people to find out for themselves, you know?
Right.
It's everyone's messed up in some sort of way.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not, then you're just weird.
Yeah, it's
you know,
true.
when it comes down to it, you know, if you don't have something wrong about you, then there's something real wrong about you.
Totally. When you get in that room with that team, you got Kearns is the filmer. You got Mike McIntyre's also filming. You've got, you know, the owner, and then you've got the 8 of you guys, plus some AM team guys or some up-and-comers. What's the energy in the room when you guys are doing those epic photo shoots and of all the team hanging out and you're filming for, you know, the Resistance and getting to hang out as a group and going on trips? You were the first team to go on like surf trips, you know, like this had nothing to do with snowboarding. It was just like partying and suntans and surfing. What was that like for you guys or for you?
It was paradise, to say the least. It was heaven. I'm just like, I'm hanging out with people I idolize that are now, you know, I can call them, you know, some of my best friends. You know, learning from them learning from me, you know, I felt like I was in the presence of greatness all the time, you know, like I was humbled, but at the same time, everyone was so easygoing that I never felt out of place, you know. Everyone took me in as a brother, you know, or as a son, you know. And we were a big family. You know, when that happened, we were a family. We did everything together. We knew what we wanted. We were focused. And then sometimes, you know, our focus got a little jaded, you know, from the popularity.
Yeah.
And the things that come with the popularity.
For sure.
Like the partying and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Who was as dedicated to the snowboarding as you? Everybody? Like I know Devin was for sure and still is.
We all were.
Everybody.
We all were. 100%.
Yeah.
Every one of us gave 100%, 110%.
Yeah.
There wasn't one person that didn't. Everyone wanted the best. They knew that, well, I thought that, you know what, if I'm not giving my best, then we can't give the best to the world as a team.
Right.
You know, so that I think we pushed each other to become better.
Yeah.
Not like a competition, but giving each other confidence to go above and beyond our skill level at that time.
Rad.
It was seeing people on the Form 8, you know, progress so much that it was unreal. You know, change the face of what snowboarding was, change what people thought was possible, you know, or what people perceived to be possible, you know, providing a route, you know, for generations to come to build on what we did, you know, for companies still to this day to take what we did, you know, way back then and try and recreate it, which they never will, but try to.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. It's a different industry. It's just, yeah, it can never be the same.
It's true. What happens when how do you move to option? Like what happens in that interim? Like does Forum start to kind of like waver a little bit, or because then I don't know when that whole thing kind of, it didn't fizzle completely. It went to Burton, right? Is that kind of when that happened?
I think it kind of started shutting down around like 2003.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of 2002, 2003.
It had had a pretty good run. 2002, 2003 was like post, like 2001 was a big shakedown in the whole industry, right?
Yeah.
Bad snow years, a couple of places. and just that bubble burst of like every year there was like more and more and more and more companies, and then all of a sudden it just was like, okay, there's not going to be 250 companies anymore.
I know the market was just got overloaded with companies trying to make a dollar. Yeah, totally. You know, they didn't look to progress the sport, they looked to make money. Yeah. Yeah. You know, they were doing things for the wrong reason. Mass producing things, you know, changing the market value, changing, you know, the value of actual snowboarders. Yeah. And even what snowboarding was, you know, from free riding, rail riding to contest riding, which is, you know, a huge part of snowboarding these days. You know, it works, it gets it out there, people see it, you know, but they don't understand there are two different sides of snowboarding. Big time. You know, for the lame person, they see contests. Oh, this is what snowboarding is. Okay, we understand it, you know. They go to a hill, they hit jumps, you know. Well, what happened to the backcountry? You know, how do you get to the backcountry? You know, what happens when you get hurt in the backcountry? You know, what skill levels that we had when we were in the backcountry? You know, what we had to deal with, you know? Yeah. That's not that. It's just like, there's wildlife too. Yeah, totally. You know, like we've come across moose have charged us. We've seen cougar tracks, you know, in the backcountry. Damn. I remember hiking jumps thinking I'm being watched right now. Like without a doubt. Like I'm pissing my pants. Yeah. When you see tracks, you're like, okay, that's a big cat. You know, no idea where it is, but I saw the tracks. Yeah, we saw mountain lion. Like just on the shoreline, we were canoeing, and we were like, let's get the hell out of here. Beautiful, majestic creature though. Yeah. Like just gorgeous. Even like I've seen some of the biggest ravens of my life. Yeah. Like we're just kind of sitting on like a cliff edge. Yeah. Raven right there, you know, just throwing, you know, some food to it. Yeah. Opens its wings and hovers like Matrix style. Just like just kicks it, swear, for like 15 seconds. You're just like, what? Just from the updraft, you know? That's rad. And just handling, just like, yeah, whatever. And all of a sudden just drops its head and just swoops away. It's like some of the coolest things, you know? It's like the most majestic shits I've ever taken in my life. So that whole time, you're based in Whistler? You stay in Whistler, like, that whole forum team time up until... Like, did you move to Vancouver during the option days? I moved to Vancouver 2000 at the end of 2003. Yeah. I can't remember when that Dufficy board came out. It was around then. 2000 might have been 2004, like the next year. 4 or almost 5. Yeah, I don't even know, dude. What was the difference riding for a Canadian company where you could just walk in the door in your hometown and, you know, talk to the people that are running the place? Well, those boards at the time, the option boards that were produced, were some of the best boards I ever rode. Ever, yeah. Like best boards ever made. Some of them. It was unreal how, like, I don't know, some of my options with the flat kick. Yeah. The best. Like my 159. Like, I love that board. Yeah. Like, it was so good. It's a beautiful board. Yeah. It's just like one of those things, like the people that were working there, they were technical geniuses. Who did you design that board with? Johnny Q? Probably. I think he was there then. Or Jason, maybe? Maybe, yeah. It could have been Jason that we're going on an old model and then just kind of like tweaking, freshening it up. And yeah, I remember when that board came out. I don't know if it was a late season release or was it at the same time Sandstone had a board? And Yoni, I think so. Yeah, I remember when it came out. There was something about it. I think it was like a mid-season, like we just announced this. We got Dufficy, like, and they were so hyped. And like working at the shop, it was just a wonderful board. It's good graphic. Yeah, that's fun. So like
you go from, the foreign boards were produced all over the place. They would change factories from time to time. Yeah, especially from those first Peter boards. Yeah. And then there were sliders in there as an option, right? Like, so you could have sliders or you could have insert boards at one point. Yeah. Would you ride sliders?
Never have.
Yeah, none of the team guys did, I don't think.
I think some of the, other people coming from Rev, because they had sliders.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know if, Jer or JP did sliders. I don't even know if they did.
I feel like somebody told me that the team guys never did, so, some shops wouldn't bring in the slider stuff.
Yeah. Because people wanted to ride what the pros are riding, in a sense, know?
All the time.
And they saw, you can't fake it out.
Yeah. Did you ever ride that Street Dweller board, the one with no edges?
No. No.
It was so gnarly, but it was cheap. I remember being like, it's not a bad idea for some kid that just, doesn't want to break his board, doesn't know how to detune his edges.
Yeah, but some of the edges definitely gave it some rigidity.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's not that, it's definitely cost, but also at the expense of having, a board that I feel like it affected the flex, both torsionally.
Yeah.
And long, and lengthwise, I guess, in a sense, because it runs the whole edge, but it also protects the board too.
Totally.
So it's well, do you want it or do you not want it?
Yeah, that was only there for a year or something, and then they're like, yeah, let's cut that one out of the line.
Killed it.
Yeah, totally. You were really active when you lived in Vancouver in the snowboard industry. You were you really helped in implementing Rip Curl and kind of getting its foot in the door in Canada. I don't think they had much of a presence before you jumped on that, right? And
a little bit, but they did have some other riders for sure.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm talking up my ass a little bit there, but I remember that at that point, it was probably around that time they came out with that stretch stuff. And that once you put that on, you're like, ooh, something waterproof that actually...
Yeah, the gum series, when that came out, it's I still have pants.
Yeah.
I kept them because they're amazing.
Yeah.
With the waterproofing and how they feel. Just, it's like stretch denim, but waterproof.
Yeah. Right.
And if it's comfortable, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
I got bib pants that I got from Dev probably over 10 years ago, and I still have them.
Rad.
Because I love them, I love bib pants because when you fall, you don't get snow up your sweater.
Zero.
Then all of a sudden, they come in style, and I'm just like, why are you wearing your jacket underneath your bib pants? Sometimes I just want to shoot myself when I see certain styles out there these days. I'm just I just shake my head. Yeah. I don't really care because if it sells, it sells,
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just old school. Old is one part, but it's one of those things, man.
Yeah.
I just like what I like, and I don't stray very far away from that.
Let's talk about Johnson and Kearns and you being such a kid around those guys. I think a lot of us, knowing their reputation, would imagine that they probably went pretty hard in corrupting you. But it sounds like that wasn't really their MO.
No, it was the complete opposite.
Rad.
It was almost like them showing me what would happen if I were to follow their path. It's not like they'd be forcing me to drink, I'd be the one having to drive the vehicle because everyone else is too hungover to drive, or help fix someone's, cut because this happened to them there, They always made sure I wasn't around bad things. They were my surrogate parents.
Right.
For how people look at them and what they did, it was a complete opposite thing for myself. I don't even know how it would be if someone else took me under their wing. They cared so much for me that I owe them my whole career almost,
Yeah.
It's the forefront of me coming up, seeing what happens, if you do things their way, and understanding that there's more to it than that side to snowboarding.
Yeah.
I can't thank them enough. They made sure they were my parents.
That's rad.
It didn't matter what state they were in. They always had my best intentions, on the forefront to anything else.
Rad.
It didn't matter, how intoxicated they were or anything else. They're just like, they tell me to leave one way or the other, or, go back in your room and sleep, or, that's one of those things, I'm young, I don't know what to do, and they're just telling me, and I'm like, yep, sounds good. A lot of people don't see that side to them or never did, but...
Did you get to ride with Johnson a bunch and Kearns?
I got to ride with Johnson more than Kearns.
And Johnson, I'm just going to say this on mic. I'm sure I've said it before. One of the most underrated dudes as far as I don't know, he must have made a couple of bad deals or had bad team managers that just didn't use him as a resource. He has excellent style. He was way ahead of the game as far as tricks and things that he could do. Since he had one of the longest careers of any pro as well. And I can't imagine what it would have been like to ride with that guy.
It was just more like seeing his dedication. Mm-hmm. It's like to see him, wreck his body, not from snowboarding, but from drinking, but then being able to get up and snowboard the way he did was phenomenal, let alone just being how good and talented he was with the style that he had,
Yeah.
He just had a never give up, like a pit bull kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And he knew what he had to do to make things sell, to make things work, no matter the cost to himself or to his body.
Yeah. I remember seeing him up Grouse, and he had just started Stepchild. And if you remember the first year of Stepchild, he got tons of editorial coverage. I know he cooked that up in his head. He was like, I know who to shoot with. I know how to get my photos run in a magazine. I'm going to do it for myself because I have to, because nobody else is going to step up and pay me the money that I'm worth. He'd go up to Grouse. He would train on rails with a helmet, and with, he would be very safe. And then for the shot, the helmet comes off and he's out in the street, and he taught himself how to ride rails with good style in the course of a season, or he reminded himself how to do it. And he was completely successful in what he had chosen to do. I fucking loved that. I've always been a huge Sean fan.
Yeah, once he puts his mind to something, you're not going to stop him.
Yeah.
He's going to do it no matter what, no matter the cost, no matter, what's in his way, what barricade there is, the price there is to pay. If there's something he wants to do, he's going to do it. It's something like that rubs off, onto me further along, just not snowboarding, but in life, in general, a way to live, it's simple, just I don't know, just it's simple rules to live your life.
Yeah.
If you want something, you're the only person that's going to be able to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Don't rely on anybody except yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's rad.
Because it's happened, it's happened to everyone. It's happened to me. It's happened to Johnson. If you look at the industry, they are not looking out for anybody except themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not here to really to piss anybody off.
Right.
But
yeah, and you're not mad. I know when we were talking earlier on, you don't come across as someone who's super jaded and oh fuck, all these companies screw me over. Happy guy. But yeah, the industry is brutal.
I'm just lucky enough to ask my buddies, you know, for a board here or there, for an old pair of pants, you know, for a pair of goggles, you know, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you give me a board, I'm gonna ride that till I break it.
Yeah.
You give me a pair of pants, I'm gonna wear them for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I still have my old Celsius boots that I ride.
That's rad.
You know, I have a backup pair, you know, that I'm just like, I kind of want to keep them, but they're there for me to, you know, for backup.
Yeah. Yeah. They fit and you know how they ride.
You know, I'm not like, I don't like asking for stuff.
I've talked to a lot of dudes that kind of feel the same way, like that it's difficult to go to a mountain even where, oh my God, who was just telling me at Vail Resort? He told me this today. 260 Canadian dollars. Nick Haranga. He said it was $190 US for a lift ticket.
Who can afford that?
That's insane, right? For a day? That doesn't make any sense. It's insane. I couldn't believe it. I thought Whistler was the most expensive place in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe it is because you have to wait so long. So, you know, comparable to how many runs you get to, you know, your lift ticket price.
Yeah. I know I was doing the math on hours open as well, you know, because they open late and they close early. There's no lights. I'm like, that might be the most expensive. Whatever, though. It's a lot of guys have said it. It's like it's difficult to go into a store with your credit card, pick stuff off the wall at retail. But it's more difficult to go into a store and go like, hey, you know who I am? You know who I used to be? That's one of the hardest ones.
Like I don't bring up, you know, my snowboard background to anyone.
Like when you're working or when you're
when I'm working, you know,
doing school.
When I meet other people, you know, if they knew who I am, they know who I am. You know, I'm not gonna say, oh, well, I used to do this and this. If you ask me a question, then maybe I'll bring it up, you know, or answer your question like specifically. Yeah. But beside that, you know, I'm just a normal dude. Everyone's a normal person.
How hard is it to be a normal dude after getting paid? You know, I don't want to say exorbitant amounts of money, but definitely more than, you know, our parents would have made growing up, like to snowboard and then being like, okay, now I got to join the workforce like everybody else. And like you've got a family, so obviously you've been thinking about that kind of stuff for years and years, right?
Well, you're blinded by that. You know, I was blinded. I didn't realize, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, snowboarding's my life. I'm going to do this forever, you know. You're at a younger age. You think like, this is all there is. You know, I was lucky enough to have parents that made me invest in the proper things to make sure I had some sort of a future, you know. It's not all about partying and buying the best stuff because you know what? Who cares? You know, at the end of the day, how are you as a person? How jaded are you? How jaded did that money make you? And how are you gonna be when you're not making that money? There are people that definitely make, you know, a life out of it, but that's few and far, you know?
Oh yeah.
There's definitely those athletes that, you know, have those endorsements or are that talented to not have to worry about their future.
There seems like there's a little bit of luck in that, or mostly luck. Like if you were on, say, Mervyn, for example. Mervyn's got the whole Cummins family, right? Matt, Temple, and Barrett. I'm sure Cannon's riding their stuff now. Like, they're like, yeah, why wouldn't we do that? Of course we're going to keep Matt Cummins. He's had a pro model for 30 years.
and he should.
Yeah, why wouldn't we, right? Like, why? So, and then say Jamie with Vans. Vans was really good with keeping Jamie on the team. Volcom, Burton with Terrier. So there's a bit of luck to it, I think. But then there's also a lot of talent there, like you said.
Well, there are those people, like every generation, there's going to be, one or two people that are just above and beyond everything else that you've ever imagined in an athlete. Nonetheless, just in snowboarding, but in any other sport, they come up and they stay up because they're focused and they know what they want, and they're not willing to let anything in their way, and there's a lot of other things, this day and age with training, with the type of support you get outside of snowboarding, that helps out a lot. So it's different. It's a different kind of game now than it was back in the day.
When I look at guys that are the equivalent of you, right? Like a freestyler that is like uber talented and hooked up on the right companies and getting video parts and doing that, those guys are not making the kind of money that guys were making in your era. But they're not upset about that. That's just where the industry is. You know what I mean? And I think I see it with you as well. There was a happy to be there component, right? Like you would have done it without the incentives. The incentives were kind of just like a bonus that ended up happening. You were going to snowboard whether you were on the Forum 8 or whether you were riding for some smaller company that hooked you up with stuff because it was in your blood, right?
Yeah, it's part of my life.
Yeah.
It's something I love. It's something that I hope to pass on, to my son or my daughter, if they choose to do it. I'm not going to force them to snowboard just because that was my passion. I'm not going to force them to do anything they don't want to do. If they want to, well, they ain't going to scooter. I'll tell you that much.
You wish, dude. My kids, I got them skateboards, and I was like, no scooters. Sure enough, he gets a scooter.
Well, that's why I'm gonna become a home inspector.
Yep.
And instead of a scooter, I'll get him a 50.
Yeah.
A little motorbike.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'll still get him something with two wheels.
Yeah.
But with the engine.
Yeah, dude.
I basically I tell everyone too, just like the only bikes I ride are ones with motors.
Yeah. Rad. Yeah, dude.
So it's either like my Harley or my motorbike,
When you were saying you've got a track out back, like you got like a single track kind of thing, or you got some, did you build like dirt jumps and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, little rollers and everything.
That's sick.
Berms for my son. Yeah, it's like a little roller for him, but at the same time, like I can definitely hit him. It's not just for him,
Yeah.
They're safe enough for him.
Yeah.
And fun enough for Dad.
That's the best, dude. You've got such a great setup up here. You have a happy life. You got a wonderful, beautiful wife, 2 gorgeous kids, cute little dog. Like, you've got a pretty good life.
Yeah, and I'm very blessed to have that.
It's great.
And it's all basically come about from my snowboarding, and I'm not going to forget that, but there's also other things, that make this lifestyle happen. It has a lot to do with my wife, how much she puts up with me and my shit, basically. How caring she is for our kids, how calm she is with myself when I freak out, and she's able to teach me as well as my kids to become a better father. It's all about learning. You never stop learning, and it's something that I've had to kind of face and realize about myself. I can't believe how much I've learned about myself just from my kids alone. Like, that's huge. Like, it's the most rewarding thing ever. It's one of the hardest things ever. Oh. But at the same time, I wouldn't want anything else.
That's dope.
It's when I wake up multiple times in the night for my daughter because of her teeth. Well, you know what? I get the best cuddles.
Yeah.
And that's not going to last long.
Yeah, it's true.
She's learning words. She wants to give me kisses now.
She's
you know,
adorable.
My son is amazing. I don't know. It's one of those things, you know, that you can't believe that you created a little human. You know, I stand back and I'm in awe. You know, I'm just like, this is really? We created this little human. You know, sometimes, you know, you just, it's the hardest thing to not overreact. But at the end of the day, the joy they bring to your life, you know, is tenfold what snowboarding ever has brought to my life. That's the best way to put it.
Right.
You know, all you young kids, you know, you're like, oh yeah, whatever, snowboarding, this and that. Like, yeah, have fun, snowboard, protect yourself. You don't want kids right now. Okay? Seriously, have fun, use protection. You're too young.
Nice public service announcement.
That's as far as I'm going.
I love your Instagram, from the intimacy that you share with your family on there, which you can just see you're beaming as a dad, and the snowboard stuff that keeps coming out. Like, I love the idea that you can go out on opening day and you're not just like, you know, brushing off the cobwebs and doing a couple of turns. You're hitting fucking jumps and doing shit that I can't do still. I love that. It looks like you still have that fire for it, you know?
Well, I'm just a big kid, you know? Half the reason I had kids was to stay a kid.
Yeah.
You know? I'm such a good fort builder. It's unbelievable. My hide and seek skills are, oh man, goodness, you know?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, you know? It's just have fun. Do what makes you happy. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Being a dad makes me happy.
Totally.
You know, but at the same time, I have to realize I have to stay fit for my kids because I want to be an active father.
Yeah.
You know?
You're in great shape. We were talking about it. You work out a few times a week and you do a lot of stretching.
Throw my kids around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
They keep you busy.
It's one of those things, you know, I'm an active person, you know, and I just, you know, it's just the way I live my life.
Yeah.
You know, to keep living the way I want to live, you have to. You have to keep stretching. You have to keep working out.
It's keeping you young, dude. You look super young, too.
You haven't looked close enough.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where the older you get, the harder it is to recover.
Oh, big
but
time.
the better shape that you're in, the faster that you're going to recover nonetheless.
Yeah.
You know, so there's two sides to everything.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I'm just used to it. That's how I've lived my life. That's how I'm going to continue to live my life, and hopefully pass that off to my kids.
That's dope.
Not so much working out, but just having that dedication to something.
Yeah, talking about that, I was saying upstairs about the jump building thing. Like, I didn't know that much about you as a snowboarder. I mean, I knew you ripped. I knew your video parts, but when I saw you building the Makepeace gap up, which is the thing that makes that so gnarly, is the landing is so precise. Like, it's very it's a technical. So that's the first part of it. Second part is the in run is insane.
Yeah,
and it's difficult to judge how fast you're going as you're coming up to it. And there's a long flat that you have to have. You have to be going too fast in order to like get to that exact spot. But that's a jump that, you know, 5 guys could spend a few hours building, but you spent probably 5 hours, maybe more, building it up and making it perfect. And then you came with a photographer, you got the shot, you hit the trick. Like, that's the kind of dedication that it's not even 1 in 100 of snowboarders. It's
I've actually hit that twice.
Yeah.
I did it with Johnson,
Rad.
and it was like a rainy day, black and white. And then we built that together. But then the second time I did it, yeah, I built it by myself. It's just love, you know. It's something that it's one of those things that you look at the people that you look up to snowboarding, you know, and it's like an omen to Wes. You know, I'm just like, he's done so many rad things for snowboarding and still does. You know, I want to show him respect by building it and hitting it correctly, in a sense, you know?
Yep.
Like, I love Wes. He's awesome. And that's one of my ways of showing it to him.
Rad.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's also just something that I want to do. And what I said, you got to put your mind to something. You just got to do it. And, you know, from the beginning, that probably came from Johnson. You know, that's been ingrained since.
Rad.
So it's all the people from the very beginning of my snowboard career that's helped me all the way through.
Do you keep in touch with Johnson? You should call him tomorrow.
I should call him, actually. I don't know. It's hard.
He has a daughter now she's probably between the age of your two kids, I think.
Of course he has a daughter.
Yeah, he does.
Of course.
Yeah. He's a wonderful dude, man. You're very lucky to have come up under his tutelage, you know? Yeah. And I know that those guys love you big time. The whole industry does, dude. You're like an industry sweetheart for fucking sure. Yeah. When I told people at Baker I was gonna be popping by your place, everybody says hey.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Love to everybody. It's the thing is, snowboard's a big family.
Yep.
And it always is, and it always will be. People will be around forever. Legends never die. You know, I'm not saying I'm a legend. I'm just saying the legends that I look up to, they never die in my mind. You know, those people that I've looked up to that, you know, have pushed me in the right direction. You know, I still look up to them. That's one of those things. I use them for motivation to this day.
Dope.
So,
all right, man. Let's end it there. That's a nice spot. Is there anything you want to shout out to? Anybody you want to say hey to? Anything? Any thanks or anything like that?
Just I appreciate Rob Dow. Thank you for the wired snowboard. I still ride the 163. It's amazing for rails, park riding. You'll see more of it. JF, thank you for the now bindings, the Wildcat versions. They're best thing that's come out for a very, very long time. And to all my Form 8, the OG Form 8, you know, it's how it was. It's how it's began, you know. And thank you so much, Peter Line, for believing in me.
Rad, dude. Thanks for being on the show, Chris. Thanks for having us in your home, cooking a beautiful meal. Let me meet your wonderful family.
Anytime.
This is fucking dope, dude. Now we just got to shred together.
Hell yeah.
We'll go up to Harper and rip some laughs, man. I love it.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, dude.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Nick at Salmon Arms. Thank you for the Bo Bishops. The gloves rocked when I was riding POW this week. At CMH Monashees, which I have to thank Tess a million times for. CMH Monashees Lodge has like the most world-class food, accommodations, and most of all snow. It was so much fun. The guides were amazing. I cannot say enough good about CMH Monashees. Check it out online and go there if you can. So many of you listeners are writing in about the show. I love it so much. Thank you. Thanks to everybody. I'm going to start a poll on the Facebook page to list potential guests for future episodes, and you guys can upvote them. So it'll probably wind up being some Bodie McBoatface type shit. But hopefully, if you upvote people that you want to hear from, I can use that to get them to come on the show. Say, listen, your fans want to hear from you. All right. Be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast brought to you by SIA Productions.